Eli Stowers' return gives Vandy a dynamic weapon back to their offense. Man, this is exciting.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All righty, welcome. As you're watching this, you're probably looking out your window and seeing a blanket of snow on the ground. It is officially Snowmageddon here in Nashville. Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, this weekend, Vandy travels to Mizzou. They look to get back on track on the court. How do they stack up? Well, we'll see. Also, the first three games will set the tone for the season next fall. They have three really important ones. We'll talk about that. However, not sure if Eli Stowers was actually coming back or not, or unsure if that was happening. Vandy was left wondering how they could fill that void. Well, Eli Stowers officially announced his return, thus giving this Vandy offense a dynamic weapon back in this offense, man. And it couldn't have come at a better time because, you know, you're planning for spring practice, you're looking for different options, and it's almost like you get a portal piece because I think there's a lot of people that expected Eli Stowers to be gone, and they weren't sure if he was coming back. And so it's kind of one of those things where you just account for him being gone, even though nobody was surprised that he came back. But I think when you account for him being gone and when you plan for him being gone, and you're starting to kind of look at, okay, well, Chance Fitzgerald, Trent Hudson. Well, let's see how Jeremy Sherrill works in this. You know, Cole Spence is going to have to play a bigger role in the passing game. You know, maybe we get AJ Newberry. Like, they were shuffling pieces to fill that void. And it was kind of, well, I don't want to say as difficult, not because these guys aren't talented, but Eli Stowers had so much production that it's just difficult to replicate that because of the position that he played and the production you were getting out of that position. Because tight ends aren't usually the guys you look at and say, that guy's a producer. You know, Florida did that with Kyle Pitts. Georgia, of course, with Brock Bowers, who I still am convinced that he's not human. He had more receiving yards than a lot of receivers in the NFL, and he's a tight end for a team that's picking in the top 8 picks in the NFL draft. A terrible team had a standout rookie. You know, he's a candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. If Jaden Daniels wasn't so good, Brock Bowers would win that award going away. But nonetheless, having a great tight end can really add an element to your offense. Now, when you have just an okay tight end, teams typically try to compensate for that, but it is just an absolute bonus when you have a great tight end. And for Vandy's sake, they weren't able to take advantage of having a great tight end last year because if they had another dynamic piece in the receiving core, I think this team wins 8 games if they have another piece at wide receiver that's consistent, because Eli Stowers was that productive. He opened up opportunities outside because of how dynamic he was. So getting him back is almost like getting another transfer portal guy, because I wouldn't have faulted him for going to the NFL. I would have understood. I probably would have told you that he was going to go fairly early. I mean, some team was going to get him and he was going to be that weapon piece, because the NFL is starting to go with, like, they're starting to build their tight end rooms kind of like what the Raiders are doing with Brock Bowers, kind of like what the Falcons wanted to do with Kyle Pitts, although that kind of fell apart. The Chiefs with Kelsey, Kittle, you know, they all have a good, solid number 2 tight end. So when they want to go 12 personnel, they have a guy that can go in line and be a good blocker and do things traditional tight ends do. And they have that piece that And those tight ends can do tight end things. Like George Kittle is a great blocker. Travis Kelce is a good blocker. Kyle Pitts, I think, is a pretty good blocker, and Brock Bowers is a good and willing blocker. But they add another element, another dimension to the offense that creates matchup nightmares for the other team. And other teams struggle to scheme for them. And can you imagine you get a guy like that who's 6'4", 240, 6'5", 250, whatever, and he runs like a wide receiver, and he can do a bunch of different things. He can hurt you in the middle of the field. He can hurt you as a pitch man in the option. He can run a jet sweep. He can run crossing routes. He can run fade routes. He can run slants. He can do just about anything you want him to do. And that becomes tough. That becomes really tough because you look at how dynamic that is. That's hard to defend against. That's difficult. And when you got a guy that can get open consistently, and you got a guy that can find these voids, and you got a guy that can shake different types of coverage, and he can match up against corners and safeties and whoever, you really kind of run out of bodies, I guess, so to speak. You run out of options as a defensive coordinator to be able to cover guys like that. And so the ripple effect of that, the things that happen because Eli Stowers is good, is tenfold. Like you can start to run the ball better. So when Stowers was being productive, when Stowers was his most productive, the run game was at its best last season. When he was able to do things in the passing game, the run game benefited. When he was able to do things in the passing game, things opened up on the outside for Skinner and for Sherrill and for Hoskins, right? Hoskins made all of his plays because people were worried about Eli Stowers. Now you get a guy that can take full advantage of that. Now I don't think Vandy was good enough at taking full advantage of that, and that's kind of where in some of these games, especially down the stretch, they fell short because they just didn't have that option that was consistent. You'd have a drop, or there would be a time where you get a guy open and you can't protect. And because you can't run the ball now and you can't protect, but this guy gets open, all of a sudden you can't get the ball to him. And then the other team realizes that and they start covering him better. And it's just a series of things that happen that allow the other team to kind of catch up, so to speak. Well, if you have a guy or two out there that can really take the lid off the defense, that can really stretch some things vertically, stretch some things horizontally, and put stress on all parts of the field, then that not only reopens Eli Stowers, but that opens the run game as well. And so that benefits having him back, a good connected piece to this offense. Now, the connection between those two, Stowers and Pavia, is amazing. They're best friends. They've been playing together for last 2 seasons, and they've got a rapport that Pavia could be blindfolded and could hit Eli Stowers no matter where he is on the field. He just knows. He could call a play, blindfold, and I bet you he throws it and completes it to Stowers, right? You can't replicate that, right? You can't go to the portal and get a tight end that's going to do that, right? You can get some really good talent. You get a guy that can run, but it's going to take some time to build rapport. But you're throwing to your best friend. That's amazing. Like that is what you want out of an offense. That is how you want this thing to go. And to have a weapon like that come back to your offense, I think it elevates everybody else around it, right? I think everybody else is going to get opportunities. I think it takes a little pressure off of everybody because, okay, now I can just relax and do my thing because, hey, they've got to account for him. They've got to shut down they've got to figure out what Stowers does the best. Now, one of my favorite plays that Vandy did with Stowers, because he was such a capable blocker, and sometimes Cole Spence would do this too, but they would trap him across the formation in a zone play, and they would kick out the end. Well, they would do that. They would do that several times. They would move him around, get guys going, put him in different sets, and then they would pull him. They'd pull him, and then they'd pull him on counter, and then all of a sudden, as kind of like a wrinkle, and this is not really like earth-shattering of a wrinkle, but I love this nonetheless. And if I ever get my hands on another offense, my tight end will be doing this. So they would then pull counter, and then instead of him wrapping inside to block a linebacker, he just avoids the defensive end. The defensive end freezes. He can't rush because he's not sure if he's going to get kicked out or bypassed. He just slips right on out in the flat. There's nobody there because they're not accounting for when they see the guard pull. Those linebackers aren't accounting for the fact that Eli Stowers is shooting across the formation and going to pop out the other side. The linebackers step up when they see guard pull. They see Stowers coming at you. They're going to step up. And then next thing you know, you got a better athlete and they're running two different directions. You get about this. I mean, even if you get a yard, even 3/4 of a yard separation, that's all he needs because Pavia is going to dip to sell the run and he's going to pull off and throw that pass. Like those are the things. And Stowers does a really good job of selling it too. And that's a result of football savvy. That's a result of having a connection within this offense, knowing what is going to happen. Because a lot of guys rush through that. You see it all the time. Guys rush through that. The defensive end, the outside linebacker, whoever is responsible for that flat, doesn't buy it at all because they're just rushing through it. The quarterback just gives some token nod. The tight end is obviously out there and obviously not going to kick that in because he's doing everything he can to avoid. He's looking for ways to get around him. But Stowers will sell it. Stowers will come in almost like he's hard charging and wanting to take that defensive end to the front row. And that's what I like about it because he has that gamesmanship. He has that savvy. He has the ability to trust his athleticism that, hey, I can sell this and get some steps of separation so that I can catch this pass. But having that dynamic in your offense, having that in your huddle, having that when you're preparing, when you're game planning as a coach, when you're Jerry Kill and Tim Beck and you're figuring out, okay, Virginia Tech is coming up this week, okay? Charleston Southern's a tomato can. It's a warm-up game. Let's be honest about what it is. All right, looking ahead to Virginia Tech. You're looking at Virginia Tech going, okay, we got our offense established. We got some things going. We've got things on things now. We've got things established. We've got a lot of guys back. And, well, it sure as hell feels better with Stowers trying to game plan. So, but those games are going to be important. And having Stowers back is going to be crucial to those games. I'll tell you why those games are important next. All right, TurboTax. Yeah, it's that season, right? This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions, whether you've got one form or 20. TurboTax experts give you your taxes and give your taxes and you and your taxes their undivided attention while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on what really matters. You don't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. So ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. Also, speaking of stress-free, the joint chiropractic. I desperately need to get there. Probably not going to get there anytime soon until the snow clears up. I don't own a snow plow, and they're not coming to save me just so I can go to the joint chiropractic. I wish the joint chiropractic would send some sled dogs over to get me so I can get cracked, but that's probably not going to happen. But anyway, when I get out of this snowmageddon, I will most definitely be getting realigned. Got lots of things ahead of me this month. It's going to be kind of a stressful month in a lot of ways, but stressful, going to be leading to a little bit more relaxed after that. So, but nonetheless, the Joint Chiropractic has over 900 locations. They can help you just as they help me. They got personalized plans, customized plans, and it is very, very good. They have they sit down with you, they evaluate you, and they do this every time you come. They're like, "Hey, is there anything new?" And you say no, and they just continue. Or you say yes. Well, I got a trouble spot right here, and they're like, "Okay, let's take advantage of that." Crack, 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 and then you float out of there. Right? It's amazing. So make sure you visit Joint Chiropractic, 900 locations nationwide. Find the one nearest you. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. If you need a second listen, Locked On SEC is the place for you. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job with his show, and we squad up. And our squad show is live on our channel. Well, not live, but it is available. It is dropped on our channel. Drops every Thursday. I'm not in this one. Spoiler alert. But I will be in more of them down the road. But it is a lot of fun. Everybody gets together. Tons of fun. So talked about Eli Stowers, man. He's going to be, like I said, dude, it's like getting a massive transfer portal piece. It's like getting that guy who you thought without a shadow of a doubt was gone, and he's coming back. And I just feel like Vandy's offense got more explosive now, because at the same time, I'm not real surprised that he's coming back. I knew this was going to happen. I anticipated it. But it wasn't ever official until now. And then he announces, "Hey, I'm coming back." And so I'm very, very excited there. He was going to bypass the draft. And, he earned first team all SEC honors, so that helps. And then, he signed a new deal with the Collective, felt like he could get a better deal there, and develop a little bit more and get ready for the 2026 draft. So I'm absolutely fired up about this, and this is going to be a lot of fun for this offense. Now, what this means now is that your offense is a lot in place. I think this gives your offense a huge element that you didn't think it was going to have. And this start of the season is pretty difficult. These first 3 games are pretty difficult. Now, if you're thinking I'm talking about Charleston Southern, I'm not. That's a warm-up game. Let's be honest about that, okay? That's a warm-up game. That's hey, let's make sure everything's clicking. Let's see who we got and who we don't got, and, just keep everybody healthy and, give our young guys a chance to play. Kind of like the Alcorn State game, except the Alcorn State and Virginia Tech games are flipped. So the next game is so you got 2 road games after that. So this is where it gets difficult, because Blacksburg is not an easy place to play. And neither is Columbia. Like Columbia, South Carolina, early in the year, that'll probably is always a noon kick, which noon in Columbia is basically hell's waiting room. And that ain't fun. And so it is hot. It's stagnant. It's just brutal. It's like a broiler, man. And then Blacksburg is not a ton different, but your crowd gets into it. They're playing Inner Sandman. They're all jumping up and down. They're going to be hungry, well coached, and all of that stuff, and looking for revenge. But here's the thing: those 2 games set the tone for the season, because I think you have a chance if you go 3-0, because you have a chance against South Carolina. Now, last year you had those 2 pass rushers, and they had caught fire by the time you got to them late in the season, and they were just on Lenore Sellers had kind of found his groove a little bit. But now you get them early, okay? I'm kind of going in reverse order for these first 3 games, but you get South Carolina early, okay? And they have a new coordinator, Mike Shula, which I don't know if I trust that. I don't know that I trust that. he might be really good. But he has a quarterback that can do everything in the run game, but has proven that if you force him to sit in the pocket, he's not good. So from between now and September 13th, Lenore Sellers is going to have to learn how to be a better pocket passer. And Clark Lee needs to take note of that. Okay. I hope Clark Lee was watching that bowl game because Illinois had a really good game plan against South Carolina. They constricted the run, forced them to pass, forced him to be a pocket guy. And it just didn't work. And then of course, if you can piss off Shane Beamer, that always helps too. Because he can't really coach the team after that. Right. So, there you go. Virginia Tech, that game is going to be, they're a physical team. They're a good physical team. They can do a lot of good things. And Kyron Drones, I think he's coming back. I haven't done a full scale Virginia Tech preview, but they're going to, they're always good. They're always well coached, but this is a game that Vandy, I think, has a chance early on with a tune-up game. I think that, Virginia Tech I felt like they fell apart throughout the season. I felt like they just weren't quite as good throughout the season. And I think this has a chance. So if Vandy if Vandy obviously gets through Charleston Southern and plays clean and all that good stuff, then they go up to Blacksburg and then they can put it on Virginia Tech. Like I think this year now Vandy's going to be much improved, and they've established their identity now, and they've established to themselves and to the world what they can do. If they come out with that Georgia Tech game plan that they had in the bowl game, they will run Virginia Tech right out of the building. Like they can really do some things to hurt you. And if they come off that Virginia Tech game feeling good, I just don't know what you get out of South Carolina early in the season. South Carolina is usually that team that if you catch them early, you have a chance. You catch them late, that's when they get their groove. And this will be a chance for them to break a 16-year losing streak to South Carolina. So Vandy's very hungry in this one. So this will be one that you look at and go, okay. And then of course Georgia State and Utah State, they got one teed up for Georgia State when they come to the bank, and then Utah State, of course, just quickly dismantle them before you take a trip to Alabama, who. They're just struggling a little bit. So, but anyway, that's how this thing is going to shake out. But we can't leave out hoops, man. This basketball team is pretty good. They got a game against Missouri. We'll talk about it. But first, did you know that big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel? I bet you didn't, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. So visit the website and you can do like me. And I do the player props for NFL games. I love doing player props. I love, anytime touchdowns are my favorite bet. I take these automatic touchdown guys like Derrick Henry with the Ravens when they play. The Rams are set to who are they playing against? They are Kyron Williams is somebody that can that can really do some things there. But it's going to be. There's going to be a lot of great things to bet on in this playoff run, but I usually typically go with the anytime touchdowns and the player props nonetheless. All right. So visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. So make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Wrapping up the show here. Locked on Vandy. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Talking hoops, man. But first, follow the show at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms, and make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that YouTube bell for notifications and stuff like that, because you never know. I might start adding a live show every once in a while, kind of like a bonus feature. So if you hit that subscribe button, guess what? You get a little notification on your phone that tells you, hey, Corey's live with Locked On Vandy. So I better jump in and get into the chat, right? You don't want to miss out on that. You just don't. So follow the show, like and subscribe. Give me feedback. I love feedback. All right. So I haven't had any comments lately. I guess you guys, it really is the off season for y'all. So, but anyway, Vandy Hoops is set to take on Missouri in Columbus. And that game tips, I think at 2. Yeah, it's 2:30 local tip, SEC Network on Saturday. And Mizzou is, according to ESPN, Mizzou is 65.9% chance of winning on the predictor thing, the little whatever you want to call that thing. But this is with this matchup, I don't know how to read this one because Missouri's pretty good, right? Dennis Gates he's revamped the roster. He's got some veteran transfer guys, but then again, Missouri's been pretty terrible. They've been pretty terrible last year in league play. They're 1-1 this year, so not a bad start, but they just got massacred by Auburn, which I think a lot of people get massacred by Auburn because they are now the number 1 team in the country. So that's not really that big of a deal. They mashed LSU, and so this is a team that they were 0-18 last year, and they were 0-18 in SEC play last year, and so this is a team that's looking for a bounce back. And I don't know how much you bounce back after that. I don't know, I don't know if you make significant jumps or marginal gains or whatever the case may be. I think this game is a little bit more even than ESPN's giving it credit for, right? Missouri, Mark Mitchell, Tony Perkins, Marquise Warwick, and Josh Gray. Gray is their primary big man, and he's going to I think to beat Vanderbilt, I think your big guy is going to have to kind of dominate the paint for Missouri. He's, again, he's got to be good. They got to be good rebounding on both ends of the floor. Free throws for both teams are going to come in handy here. Turnovers with Vandy always plays a factor because Vandy is really good at turning you over and capitalizing off that because they play really well in transition. So this is going to be something that, if you can stop, Tamar Bates is the guy to stop. He's averaging 13.1 points per game. So these two teams are kind of evenly matched as far as records and talent and stuff like that goes. Style of play, I haven't watched a ton of Missouri, I'll be honest with you, but I can probably tell you how Missouri and probably how most teams are going to play against Vandy moving forward because they watched that Mississippi State game, and Mississippi State said, you know what, you're going to have to shoot threes to beat us. You're going to have to shoot. You're going to have to shoot your way out of this. And, well, Vandy couldn't. And so if Vandy wants to win, I think if Vandy wants to win consistently, if they want to be successful, they're going to have to figure out a way to shoot the ball. They're going to have to figure out a way to put it through the net from the 3-point line. They're going to have to find a way to do more than just run the floor. Maybe it's more savvy passing. Maybe they have to be more patient to find open looks at the basket. They're going to have to hit their free throws a little bit more. Vandy's going to have to be a 90% free throw shooting team as well because of how much they drive and how much they try to get to the rim. They're going to get fouled. They're going to get put on the line. And if they can't hit their free throws, then it's just going to be, hey, if Vandy drives, just foul them. Just put them on the line because they're going to hit it 2/3 of the time and not 90%. And force them, pack the paint and, give up open looks to three because 19% from 3-point from behind the arc, it ain't going to cut it. And teams are just going to say, okay, you got it, man. We're not going to even close out on you. We may close out on you. We may not. It won't matter because you're going to miss it and we're going to get the rebound and we're going to take it down and we're going to score. Then we're going to force you to do it again and again and again and again. And teams are going to start playing that way, right? Just like with football, Vandy was so good at running the ball and running the option. Teams started kind of going for that. Teams started kind of accounting for that. They started constricting the space, forcing guys to make quicker decisions, things like that. for basketball, they're going to let you pass the ball all around the perimeter as much as you want. They're going to say, hey, shoot it. When you hit 3 in a row, we'll close out on you. And Vandy's yet to do that. And so, or they've yet to do that on a consistent basis. So they've got to be they don't have any shooters. And they're often at a size disadvantage, which I think is the only unfortunate thing about what Mark Byington's doing. And this is a good league, and this is a big league, and this is a league that can get to the rim, and they can dunk, and they can make big plays. They've just got to figure out a way to adapt to that. And Mark Byington's a good coach, and he'll find a way to adapt. So I don't think it's going to be the same thing every single time. They'll figure out ways to draw defenders back out to the perimeter. And then they'll find ways to get to the rim. They'll get better at free throw shooting. They'll adapt. They just got to kind of figure out now, okay, well, this is how teams are going to play us. So I think Vandy, instead of scouting, not instead of scouting, because they still need to scout, but I think they need to focus more attention on self-scouting, figuring out how do we defend ourselves, because nothing else really matters. Because if you can't hit shots, it doesn't matter what the other team does. If you're not going to hit shots, they're going to run you out of the gym, right? And even as abysmal as they were from behind the arc, it still wasn't a blowout with Mississippi State because they were able to get turnovers. They were able to do some things, and they were able to create some opportunities for themselves, and they were able to keep this game tight. Vandy's going to play hard. They're going to play smart. They're not going to do overly stupid things, kind of like last year's team did. They're going to stay in the game. I don't think I'd be surprised, except against like Auburn and Tennessee and Florida. Like, I think there's a couple games where it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get blown out because the other team's just that good. But in games where they're somewhat closer, they have a chance. They're a good team. I just don't know that they're quite ready to be that great team. So we'll see kind of how they play against Missouri. They've got a chance to get one back before they get on a tough stretch of games here. But I think they're going to have to, again, they're just going to have to find themselves as shooters. But anyway, that's all I got. And if you're going to Columbia, if you're going to Columbia, enjoy the game. Enjoy the snow. Be safe. Be careful if you're out driving in this crap. Be careful. Take it slow. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be that guy on the news that spun out because you're in a hurry. But enjoy. Go sledding. Do whatever you need to do. We'll see you back here next time on the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Peace and anchor down.